In this unit, we are going to learn about taxes and fees associated with buying a car. So when you buy a car, at that moment, you have to actually pay sales tax on the purchase of the vehicle itself. So a sales tax is any time the government imposes a tax on a good or service that you buy. Now, in most states, they're going to charge between 5 and 9% sales tax. In addition to the state sales tax, some cities and some counties will also charge you a tax as well. So over here, we're going to look at the states with the highest sales tax. So California with 7.25% sales tax has the highest state sales tax. That does not include any county or city taxes at all. And the state with the lowest sales tax is actually Colorado. Theirs is just 2.9%. Now, I live in Ohio, so our sales tax is actually 5.75% that goes to the state of Ohio. However, I live in the city of Cincinnati, and that means that I also have to pay a local tax to the city of Cincinnati. So in the city of Cincinnati, if you buy anything, you pay 6.5% sales tax, and that means that 5.75% of that actually goes to the state of Ohio. And if I take 6.5 minus 5.75, that leaves me with 0.75, and that's actually what goes to the city of Cincinnati where I live. Now, some states have something called an ownership tax. So the way that states get money in is they tax people that live there, and they can either tax your income or they can tax things you own. And in this case, we're going to look at the state of Colorado. Their personal income tax is probably going to be a little bit lower because they charge people taxes based off of the property that they own. And so what an ownership tax is it's an annual tax charged to the owner of the property, and the amount is based on the age of the property and basically the value of that property. So we can see over here with the state of Colorado that they have a tax chart here for vehicles. And so if you have a vehicle and it's only in its first year, you have to pay 2.1% of the total value of that vehicle. As you can see, the percentage amount for the tax rate is decreasing every year. So in the second year, it goes down a little bit. Third year, it goes down a little bit more. But once you get to year 5, they've just got 0.45% for the car if it's between 5 and 9 years old. And then after the car is 9 years old, you barely have a tax to pay. It's only $3 a year for that vehicle if it's 10 years or older. An ownership tax, like I said, takes into consideration how old the vehicle is, and that's how it uses its tax rate based off of the price. But there's also something called a property tax. So a state would not have both an ownership tax and a property tax. With a property tax, they don't actually care how old your vehicle is. So Kentucky is actually a great state to look at for property tax. In Kentucky, especially in these last couple of years, the price of used cars has gone up. And so people that live in Kentucky are probably very frustrated because the value of their car is actually increasing instead of decreasing. Many times if you have a vehicle, the older it gets, it decreases in value. Well, because of the used car market, there just aren't any, and now these vehicles are increasing in price rather than decreasing in price. So what they do in Kentucky is you would determine the value of your vehicle as of January 1st. The person that owns the vehicle on January 1st is the person who's responsible for paying the property tax for that year. So like, let's say you sold your car in April, the person that bought your car does not need to then go and pay a property tax on that car. They would still pay sales tax to that state when they bought the car, but they're not going to also pay a property tax in addition to that. But come next year at January 1st, they are then the person that is responsible for paying for that property tax. The payment is actually made to the county clerk office in the county where the vehicle is registered. So you don't necessarily pay it, you pay it to the state, but you go through your county to actually make that payment. So here's the rates for 2022. It says that the state rate for any non-historic vehicle is 45 cents per $100 value. So that just means that's basically a car that you drive that is not an older car. Like if you've seen the older car shows they've got, and the next one is 25 cents for a historic motor vehicle. That means a car that's a certain age, and typically it's a car that's well maintained and people have it and they can't drive it for very many miles per year. But because Kentucky gets most of their taxes in for property values, things that they own, not just cars, but there's a property tax in Kentucky, they would have lower state income taxes to help accommodate for that property tax. Now, in every state, you also have to pay something called a registration fee. So this is something that you pay for right when you purchase your car, and then you actually have to renew it every single year that you own your car. In the state of Ohio, you can pick your own date that you want to renew it on. For most people, they pick a birthday. In my particular family, we only pick my husband's birthday because then all the vehicles are due on one day and I don't have to remember whose birthday it is that I'm trying to remember to pay this registration fee. So we're going to go on ahead and look at the fee structure for 2022. So you have an initial fee that you have to pay when you first register your car. So if you have plates, you have to pay for the plates, you have to pay for temporary tags, you have to pay for if you want to personalize your plates. And then for some people, if they lose their registration fee and they need to get if they lose their registration paper, you sometimes need to replace it for different reasons and you would have to pay money to get a replacement. Once you've completed your initial registration, every year you then have a fee structure based off of your vehicle that you're paying registration on. So the first area to look at is the type of fuel that your vehicle uses will determine the amount that you're paying for that registration. So we can see here that if you have a gas, diesel, or some type of typical fuel, you don't have an extra fee for that. But if you have a hybrid car, meaning that it does electric and gas, or you have an electric car only, you have an extra fee for that. And that is actually because the state of Ohio charges tax on fuel. So with the state of Ohio, they're trying to make sure they get their money in. If you've got a hybrid car or an electric car, you are not funding them by paying taxes on that fuel, so they are going to charge you extra money at registration for that. You also have to pay registration, a cost per the number of years that you are registering the vehicle. So if you only register 1 year at a time, it's a $5 fee to do that. But if you register for more than 1 year at a time, you get a discount of $2.50 every additional year that you move up. So for example, like if I wanted to do 2 years, it would only be $7.50 rather than $10. So 5 times 2 would be 10. So I'm saving $2.50. Then if I go to 3 years, instead of it being $15, which would be 5 times 3, it's now only 10. So every year I'm saving an extra $2.50. This I consider to be somewhat of a personal decision, mainly because especially if you have an older vehicle, let's say the vehicle dies, you may not want to register your car for multiple years because you don't want to pay the registration fee. And when I look at this multi-year registration option, it's not just saying I'm only paying for this portion here. If we look at the next box, you're paying a registration fee for your vehicle type. So in here, like if I have a passenger car, it costs me $31 for that passenger car. Well, let's say that I want to register this vehicle for 2 years. I have to take that $31 and multiply it by 2. So it would be like $31 times 2 plus the $7.50 plus whatever the charge would be for my vehicle type. So while we say it might not be a lot of money to spend $2.50 more, if I have a vehicle that I think may or may not be around, I am taking each one of these categories and multiplying it out. The only savings I'm getting is in that multi-year registration area. So for my family, we prefer just to register every year. I'm not concerned about saving $2.50. It's not enough for me. And interestingly enough, if you look over at that vehicle type, you can see here that different types of vehicles have different fees. So like a passenger car, that'd be like a minivan, a SUV, just a 4-door car, that's only $31 to register that. But if you have a truck, it's actually $46 per truck. So I have a truck, that registration always costs more than my minivan and that's because it costs more to register a truck than it does to register my van. Now, these are just a select few that I pulled off of the state of Ohio's website. There are other types of vehicles out there that people would register. So we're going to go through a few different practice problems to look at these topics. So the first one says Anna Apple plans to purchase a truck that costs $24,599. The sales tax in her state is 6.5%. So the first question says, how much tax will she pay? And the next question says, what is the total cost of the purchase including tax? Okay, so in this instance here, the first thing we need to do is figure out how much taxes we're going to pay. So we can just take the price of this vehicle, which is $24,599, all right, and we're going to multiply it by the sales tax. Now you'll see up here they listed sales tax in percent form. When we're using algebra, what we're going to do is we are going to we're going to be converting everything to decimal format. So here I'm going to put it in decimal format at 0.065. So to convert a percentage from a decimal, you basically just divide the 6.50 by 100. That puts it into decimal format. Once I actually multiply that out, that is going to give me my sales tax. So that is $1475.99. And that's the first part of the question. How much taxes will I pay? $1,000, $475.99. That's like a lot of money in taxes. Sometimes you look at the price of the car and you're like, oh, I've got $25,000, but you have to make sure you have enough for the taxes as well. So when she buys this vehicle, it's not just $24,599. It's actually including this sales tax here. We're going to add this on to the price of the vehicle, and when I add that on, that's going to give me $26,074.94. So that is the actual price of the vehicle itself when you walk out the door with it. All right, the next question says, Ben Bowers lives in a state where he pays ownership tax on his vehicle. His vehicle is 3 years old and is valued at $10,900. What is the ownership tax on this vehicle, and what is the ownership tax if his car is 11 years old? So in this case, we need a table to tell us the tax rates by year. And this one we can see is 3 years old, so I'm going to look in this table. I'm going to find the percentage for 3 years old, and here it's 1.2%. So I can just take the value of the vehicle at this time, multiply it by that percentage, which I had mentioned. Again, we're putting it in decimal format, and once I multiply that out, the taxes that I'll pay is $130.80. So because his vehicle is not worth that much, the tax is very small. Now, if this vehicle was worth $40,000 instead of almost $11,000, you're looking at paying quite a bit more money. You're looking at like $600 basically, or $550 for this tax. That can be quite a bit of money if you have a very nice vehicle. In this case, this is a lower priced vehicle, so it's not as much. Now, the next question, kind of at the end, it said, look at it at 3 years, but then look at it if it was 11 years old. If it was 11 years old, we don't even need to do any calculating. If it was 11 years old, it's just this $3 right here. All right, our final question says, Carol pays registration fees based off of the weight of her vehicle. Use a registration weight table to determine the amount of registration fees if the vehicle weighs 3,500 pounds. What would the fee be if the vehicle weighed 4,000 pounds? Well, we need to use a table again. So in this case, there's really no calculating to do. This one, it's all based off of weight. So you're going to look over here at the weight of the vehicle, and you're going to pay a rate based off of weight. So the first one says it's 3,500 pounds. Well, if it's only 3,500 pounds. So if it's 3,500 pounds, you're paying $35. But once it jumps up to 4,000 pounds, you're now looking at $41 instead. So this one, there's no calculating. You're only using the table. So try a few of these problems, and hopefully this video helped you do those problems.